Hi everybody, welcome to Journey to the Goddess. My name is Annalisa and I'm your hostess, and today I'm going to be talking about ancient Sumerian erotic love poetry. But before I get started, I just want to say really quickly, thank you to everyone who's subscribed to my channel, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe, please like this video, comment, and share. And also, if you are interested and able to support Journey to the Goddess in other ways, I encourage you to head on over to my Patreon page. The second thing I'd like to do before we get into the poetry itself is just give a simple recognition of the first people of the land here. So today I'm in Kirkland, Washington, and the first original peoples of this land were of the Duwamish tribe. So I want to thank and acknowledge them. Now let's get into a little bit of the history of Sumer. Ancient Sumer is one of the first cultures of the Mesopotamian civilization that began in the 4th millennium BCE, so around 6,000 years ago. There are many characteristics of this high civilization for which we won't really go into now, but one of them is writing. So today, I'm going to be presenting to you one poem from their canon of love poetry. Scholars categorize this love poetry in different forms. There are bridal songs, for example, and these bridal songs seem to kind of initiate a young woman into marriage. It prepares her for the next phase of her life. And then there's these more erotic poems that really have a lot of sexual metaphors and innuendos that are kind of fun and saucy. And the really cool thing about a lot of this poetry is that it's spoken from the woman's perspective. It emphasizes, especially the poem that I'm going to share with you as part of the erotic canon, it emphasizes women's pleasure and women's desire. And we don't know if they were actually written by women, but Gwendolyn likes to think that maybe they were, or at least they give us an inroad into women's lives, women's feelings about sexuality and sexual relations. Again, what's really cool about this poetry is that it centers the woman, and it centers her as the subject, and the male is the object of her desire. So there's a lot of political pieces, that contexts that we could talk about with regard to the poetry. One is that this may or may not refer to the sacred marriage. The idea was that the king of the land would unite sexually with a woman, usually a high priestess, who was representative of the goddess Inanna. And so their union was thought to bring fertility to the land, to the people, to the culture. So theoretically, it was a very important ritual and a rite. We don't know if it was actually ritualized. So that's one point here. Another point that we could remember is that Mesopotamia was heteronormative. It was also patriarchal, so marriages were arranged, and women didn't always have to go stay with the groom's family, but definitely, especially as we get further and further along into the civilization, into the culture itself, women increasingly lost their rights and became property of the father or the husband. So that's worth noting too, because that'll come up in the poem. So the other piece of this that I think is worth mentioning in terms of the politics of love poetry is that there's a possibility that this poem and the canon of poems that I'm speaking to right now were by the wives of the king, and that these poems were created to create competition for the king's attention between the wives. And so it kind of heightened the sensual necessity to kind of lure the king into their bed. They really believed, though, that sex was meant to be enjoyed and that that was a divine right given to humans. So the reason this poetry, I think, is really cool is because, again, it centers women's desire. And in Western history, especially the last several hundred years, women's voices are kind of subjugated to the male voice, and it's usually the male lover and the female beloved. This poetry really gives women the ability to speak for herself and to speak for her own desire. So we can reclaim the poetry right now as empowering for women. Use it as a way to kind of claim your desire and your power as a sensual being. And also, it doesn't have to be limited to male-female relations. So that's pretty cool too. You can just change some words. I've seen this poetry presented woman to woman, whichever configuration you like. It's worth noting that in this poem, the king is Su-Suen. Honey is also a euphemism, a symbol of kind of sexual pleasure. And so that comes up a lot in these poems. Without further ado, I present to you this erotic love poem.
Man of my heart, my beloved man, your lure is a sweet thing, as sweet as honey. Lad of my heart, my beloved man, your lure is a sweet thing, as sweet as honey. You have captivated me, man. Of my own free will I will come to you. Man, let me flee with you into the bedroom. You have captivated me. Of my own free will I come to you. Man, let me flee with you into the bedroom. Man, let me do the sweetest things to you. My precious sweet, let me bring you honey. In the bedchamber, dripping with honey, let us enjoy over and over your lure, the sweet thing. Lad, let me do the sweetest things to you, my precious sweet. Let me bring you honey. Man, you have become attracted to me. Speak to my mother, and I will give myself to you. Speak to my father, and he will make a gift of me. I know where to give physical pleasure to your body. Sleep, man, in our house till morning. I know how to bring heart's delight to your heart. Sleep, man, in our house till morning. Since you have fallen in love with me, man, if only you would do your sweet thing to me. My Lord and God, my Lord and guardian angel, my King who cheers Enlil's heart. If only you would handle your sweet place. If only you would grasp your place that is sweet as honey.
Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this journey to the ancient culture of Sumer and that you enjoyed this little taste of erotic love poetry, and maybe you can take it home with you and try it out for yourself. Don't forget to leave a comment if you like it, and to share, and to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, ciao!